This one's going to be interesting. Interesting? We've had a good warm-up. Just rolling right into it. Everybody looking sexy.
Oh, yeah.
We're bringing sexy back, right?
I like the, is that an outdoor coat or is that a formal coat?
Oh, this is my tuxedo jacket, my white tuxedo jacket that I got from one of the people that are kind of like sponsors for me is Tuxedo Junction. Whenever I need
You're throwing
clothing.
out plugs and we're not even done with the intro music? Outstanding.
Well, hey, you asked me about my coat. They always hook me up, and anytime I need something, as you can imagine, it's hard to find clothes in my size. I recently went to a big and tall shop, and my feet are 2 sizes too long for the biggest shoe at a big and tall shop.
You wear it well.
Yeah.
You wear it well. Welcome to Big Words I Know by Heart, a program of rants, raves, faves, pet peeves, personal vendettas, celebrity interviews, and anything else we can fill the half hour with. My guest today has worked behind the scenes at the home of the camera and in front of the camera and even at the craft services table. He's co-directed Dick Johnson and Tommygun versus Cannibal Cop, produced Vault of Terror and Sepulcher, among many others, starred in over a dozen films, including Greg Lamberson's upcoming Johnny Gruesome, of which our co-host Michael O'Hear was not involved, which we'll get into. Dry Bones and Snow Shark, but his passion lies in practical effects. I'm pleased to welcome John Renna. John, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us in the co-host hot seat is over-accomplished actor and epicenter of the 6 Degrees of Buffalo filmmaking board game, Mr. Michael O'Hear. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The Donald Pleasance of Buffalo.
I don't know if I want to lead with this. I don't have a question for this. We have to touch down on the aunt who babysat you and let you watch horror movies as a child. Did she get yelled at?
Well, see, my dad was really into movies and stuff, so that's a lot of what we did when I was younger was we'd stay up and we'd watch movies like Indiana Jones and old monster movies and all the Universal stuff and The Fly and everything. And so my dad was pretty liberal with stuff. The Fly remake, can you clarify that? Both. The original first and then the remake and everything. I mean, I was like pretty young, and my dad said, let's watch RoboCop, and people are getting blown up, and I said, that's what I want to do. I want to blow people up and make it look real. So, so that's kind of what started things. But as far as the aunt goes, that was my Aunt Karen, my dad's sister, the youngest of the Rennas. There was a ton of them on my father's side, and she babysat us a lot, and we watched all of the inappropriate horror movies when I was a kid. I mean, I remember being very young and watching Michael Myers throw somebody off a roof and being like, oh my God, and everything. And one of the big things for me was having a small part in The Alcoholist, because it was a movie with Bill Moseley in it, and I would sit on my Aunt Karen's floor in her bedroom at my grandparents' house when nobody was around and study the case for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where it was like, I think the Breakfast Club remake of The Picture Pose on the front case. I studied it and studied it and studied it, and then cut to all these years later, I got to star with Chop Top in something, and by star I mean a very small part where I talk about giving myself a cherry enema.
I had a friend across the street who made me sit through. We watched Toxic Avenger and Army of Darkness and Reanimator and Scanners and all the greats.
Scanners I love, man. I have every Scanners on video, VHS and DVD, and I watch them. People's heads exploding all the time. It's one of my favorites.
That was one of the great effects that I read about, was the head exploding.
Yeah.
And how they did that yesterday. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, but really cool.
Enough about Scanners. Let's focus on you, sir.
Sure.
Would you like to? Are you ready for these questions?
Listen, I've been waiting for a year for these questions. For a whole year.
You stepped away from the light to be on this show.
I did.
Correct?
I really did. No, I've had some stuff going on, and I have a few health issues that I have to get cleared up. There was a car accident. Someone rear-ended me and messed me up pretty good, and I have to have a couple of surgeries. So it was always like kind of a what's going to happen? Am I going to be healthy? Am I going to be ready? Am I going to be out of surgery, in surgery?
Little touch and go.
Yeah, and as it turned out, I still haven't had the surgeries and stuff. It's making me crazy. So I'm just hanging in there, and hopefully I can get it done, have everything good to go, and then when the time for the film busy season comes around, I'll be good to go to work again.
That's good to hear. Michael's had an issue, or one, or two.
Or 10.
Maybe.
We're all in good
It's kind of rumored.
It's rumored. Mr. Renna?
Yes, sir.
As a practitioner of practical effects in movies, How many squibs do you conceal and carry at all times in the event of a spontaneous gunshot death scene?
When I head to the movie set, and it's any movie set, even if it's a drama, you better believe that I have my red bag with me, and my red bag has, I don't do explosive squibs because of permits and money, and the less explosions on a set, the more the insurance company likes it, and I also just love them. I do air squibs, which are air pressure squibs, where you have a hose filled with blood attached to the actor, that's attached to an air compressor, and I'm off camera getting ready to squeal with delight as I blow somebody's face off. And you literally say 3, 2, 1, and it's like a mortar. The air replaces the blood in the hose. The weakest point is the end of the hose, so blood sprays out of your victim.
Is that a custom job, or is that an industry secret?
For me, it's a custom job. You can buy stuff pre-rigged. You can have people rig them for you. Explosive squibs look really cool and stuff, but I mean, you know, they can be dangerous. Bob Bozak, if I remember correctly, the great Bob Bozak has a
is he the guy
scars.
who's been in every Buffalo movie for the last 30 years?
Yes.
Just checking.
He's a good buddy of ours, and he's done a lot of stuff, and he has on his formidable physique burn marks from squibs blowing off, and the charges weren't properly measured, I'm guessing, and it heated up metal plates, and it can burn you. They're really dangerous. So that's why I prefer an air hose going pop and people going, oh, and the clothes getting sprayed with blood over an explosion, a controlled explosion on somebody's chest, you know. And as I said, the insurance premiums they love it when you're not blowing people up.
Do you refer to it as the red bag of courage?
The red bag of courage is what I'm going to start referring to it now.
We'll trademark it.
I like that, actually. It's great.
Now, you just told me yesterday, now that Dick Johnson and Tommygun has a hard 2018 release date and distribution with Camp Motion Pictures.
That's right.
Yes.
You have, okay, so
you're hearing it here first.
Here first, an exclusive. I saved it all this time. I was waiting for this show. It wasn't because of any post-production headaches. I was saving it for this show. I told Camp Motion Pictures, no, I don't want you to release my movie right after it's done. I want you to wait as long as possible.
Hold it for Big Words Video. That fits.
Camp Motion Pictures saw it and they really liked it, and they contacted me almost immediately, and it was a matter of getting it polished with no post-production budget. And after we toiled on it endlessly, I said, John Ferrari, I need your help. We're having an issue here. Your fresh eyes, if you look at it, maybe you can fix it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but anything you can do to help me. Within a day, he's like, I see the problem. I'm like, oh, okay. And he fixed it in a day. I was like, I'm ready to jump in a lake, you know? So it's fixed. It's ready to go. Everything is prime. And he even did an audio pass because he wanted to make sure the audio was pristine because he's good people.
For the
John
bonus clip.
Ferrari. Yeah, he just did his short. I did special effects for, and I did a squib in it. A really crazy squib. It's called In the Death Room. It's a Stephen King short story that we did for the Dollar Baby, and I'm pretty proud of it. John did an amazing job with it, and I got to a bullet skins somebody's forehead and then buries into the back of their head. So I had to build a specialty squib that has a skin flap that almost looks like a merkin, and if you don't know what that is, we'll get into it in a moment.
I'm very familiar with merkins.
Very good. How did I know? And it looks just like a merkin, and
they're my passion project.
That's right. You put it right down and blend it like a hairpiece in, and when you hit it, it literally looks like the bullet goes and peels the skin back. It's pretty impressive.
Now, can you reveal which true story it's based on? Dick Johnson versus Tommygun. Does it have anything to do with the Deep South and or bath salts?
You would think that it would, with a title like Cannibal Cop.
Yes.
But what it actually has to do with is strange thing, okay? It's the Gil Valet story. I'm actually Facebook friends with Gil. The actual Cannibal Cop, everybody. We're having a premiere in New York at some point. Fingers crossed. Everything should be working well. And
cookout?
He's going to have a cookout. Yeah. No, he's out of jail because it was BS why he got locked up. He's written a couple of books, and he's going to come to the world premiere of Dick Johnson and Tommygun versus the Cannibal Cop. So How do you like that?
It really is a true story. I thought
Yep.
that was bullshit.
It is, because the story is based on a true story, like all the 80s movies are based on a true story, as in they aren't. You know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on one little old man from Wisconsin who never killed anyone with a chainsaw. You know, stuff like that. So it was my based on a true story, where it's, you know, it's loosely.
You ran away with it.
Yeah,
You ran away
loosely
with it.
based. Basically, what happened was it's based on what the judge must have thought really happened, that he would give somebody life in prison for intent. So the way the story goes is his wife was goofing around on his internet, being nosy like wives like to do, and she found, he's on a cannibal fetish site talking about eating people, and some of these people I know, and there's my name. So the guy was on a fetish site. He really liked writing scary stories about eating people and like extreme horror. He was really into it, just like some people I know. Stephen King, for instance.
Yes.
Well, she contacted the police and told the police that her husband is a cannibal and a maniac, apparently, and he's nuts. And they said, you know what? We don't like working with him. He's a weirdo. You're right. And they arrest him and
For
charge-
thought crime?
For a thought crime. Exactly, for a thought crime. Now, I've talked to Gil. He seems like an okay dude. I think he had a bad case of the bad wives, to be honest with you.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Some of us have been there.
So basically, she just threw him under the bus, and the cop said, you know what, you're right. And I'm thinking to myself, you're a cop. You're supposed to get out of murder and have nothing happen to you. You're not supposed to get thrown in jail for life for not murdering anyone. So I said, you know what, maybe what I can do to kind of give this guy a hand, because he's literally in jail for life, and no one knows about it because it happened at the same time as the Jodi Arias trial. And Jodi Arias trial was like a circus. So so basically, I said, I'm going to make this movie about what they think really happened, the kind of crime you would get life for. Eating a bunch of people, like the people that you fantasize about actually eating them, you know? So I went to writing the story, and then he goes to jail, and he becomes the prison cook.
Irony.
Yeah. So it was just all these little things as I'm writing this serious, like, horror story. And somehow I'm just sitting there, I'm like, why is this becoming so funny? And it turned into this twisted, odd couple buddy cop comedy. And as I was writing it and getting it together and everything, he gets released from jail. And
Camp Motion Pictures bailed him out, correct?
Camp Motion Pictures bailed me out, is what they did. No, Camp Motion Pictures are great. They've worked with us on a lot of stuff, and they are they're really dedicated to getting your product out there. They work really hard for you. So any people that produce films out there, if you have a film that you think has the chops, I'd say send it over to Camp and see what they think. If they like it, they're the kind of people that they'll go to bat for you. You'll have ads in all the major magazines and
Points on the back end.
sites. Oh yeah.
Michael, you wanted to interject?
I've been railroading Michael.
You were going to say something a couple of minutes.
Oh, yes. Well, I was going to say how disappointed that John was because, I was in the movie, in the death room, and despite the fact that the director had absolutely no thought of having any blood on my character, John chased me around the set with the blood cannon, wanting to spray me from head to toe. He did not succeed.
I was actually pretty upset about that. I really wanted to blast Michael with some blood or do any bit of gore that I could, just because anytime I get a chance to have a tube inches from Michael's face that has high velocity blood in it, I take that chance.
So the love is there.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's kind of like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell's relationship. If Sam Raimi had zero talent and was fat, and Michael O'Hear wasn't nearly as handsome as Bruce Campbell.
Moving away from that.
We're both horrible and old and fat, Michael. You know that, right?
Yes, I do.
How might a movie like Avatar be any different with the use of scale models and full body makeup, and would it still have taken 45 years for big budget blowhard James Cameron to release it theatrically?
Okay. The story was there. The characters were there.
He has the same story in every movie.
Well, that's why, because he's done it so many times. It's
You got the aliens, the
practiced.
military, the scientists.
Yeah, basically, the way that I look
And
at it
strangely
is,
enough, a ship that goes down, and this poor guy can't get on this little door, so he freezes to death. And she goes, "I'll never let go," and she lets go.
and he slowly floats.
And mayhem ensues.
Yeah, the only thing I was waiting for in an Avatar was that scene in the back of the car with the steamy windows and her just be. No, it was just giant blue boobs getting drawn. No, it was the only thing that I like that's giant and blue more is Mr. Fantastic's giant. So so basically, where are we going with this?
We're just going to keep on rolling. We're going to keep on rolling.
No, the thing with Avatar that I think Cameron gets away from, if we can be serious for a moment,
let's take a serious turn.
We can try. Is that what he doesn't understand is that special effects work best together. When you have digital effects anchoring something live, it helps basically trick your brain into thinking it's really there. Some of the stuff is looking better and better, but it still has that. It feels too digital. That's why if you can do miniatures and then digitize them. You don't have to only do straight miniatures. That's the cool thing, is that all of the old technology is so much better and so much easier to use now because of the advent of everything digital.
And there's always going to be a field for it.
Exactly. Exactly. And no matter what, you got your clique of people that's what they want is standard prosthetics and stuff like that, and they keep moving away from that and doing full digital faces and stuff. And that's why, spoiler alert, people were so upset about the new Star Wars. There were so many people that hated it, so many people that loved it, so many people that hated it. As far as I'm concerned, that's the first appearance of Yoda since the original trilogy, because everything else was just... Okay. Yoda is a puppet, a rubber puppet, like a rubber puppet. And I'm like, this is what you guys have wanted, what you've been begging for. You get it, and then you're like,
now you're angry.
Wah! Wah! This movie's horrible. But it's not horrible. It wasn't bad. I wasn't happy about the whole fact that it's the exact same arc again. You could have come up with something else than the Death Star that kills
was not a
entire universe. What's next? They're going to do it again.
There was not a what, Mike?
Yeah.
I'm going, wait a minute. This was the one where, Luke bites the big one. There was no
You
Death
guys are
Star.
ruining it for me. Now I don't have to see it.
I know. That was the sad part of it, though.
I said spoiler alert.
He did.
Spoiler
You
alert.
did. You did. I should have left the room.
You could have been like, la 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 la.
That's okay. I'll buy it on digital anyways. Do you consider your previous work in craft services to be harrowing or grueling, and what is the nuclear half-life of a Lender's brand bagel?
All right, so...
We have 12 minutes, so we have to rattle through.
So we had the bagel incident as it's kind of become over the years, where I had a guy who was helping out with the food when I was production manager on Slime City Massacre, and he had all these bagels, and I didn't realize that the bagels had been baked ahead of time and brought in. I thought that they were still the frozen unbaked bagels, so I was like mad and screaming that they were perfectly fine, and because I was having other issues at the time, and Michael was screaming that they weren't perfectly fine, that you could murder someone with them, and it like went back and forth with us screaming at each other to the point where we reenacted it at one point because someone wanted us to reenact the bagel argument, and it just didn't have the same zest as when it happened live. But the half-life of a Lender's bagel is right up until if you throw it at someone, they die. Then you know that you have to throw them out.
Then it's done.
Now, as far as like real craft services goes, there's craft services, which is the low budget indie stuff that we do, where it's a table that if the wind blows it falls over, and there's like half-eaten packages of like old granola bars and shit that you get at Aldi.
Is Martin Scorsese's mom on the other end of the spectrum?
Yeah. She is actually. On the other end of the spectrum, we're talking about full spreads of holy crap where they have, at this point we bring out this, at this point we bring out this. So I've been on everything from the small films where I'm like, where's craft services? And they go, what the hell's craft services? And I've been to the big sets where I'm like, where's craft? Holy cow! And it's like, they have like a friggin' rag on their arm and shit, So it really depends. In this film industry, you never know what you're going to get.
So, John, was your arm on the rag during the show that you were at craft services?
Were you brandishing Grey Poupon, perhaps?
When I was craft services on a film for the great Fred Olen Ray, I had never done it before, and they had worked with me before and knew that I was a big dumb schmuck, and thought that I could probably do a pretty good job there. And I was like a big oafy guy, like, "Where's your food?" and like metal trays and shit like that. And they yelled at me and said, "Listen, come here. You have to make this stuff look nice."
Was this also when the maestro of Meatloaf came in during the craft services?
The maestro of Meatloaf is a gentleman and a scholar.
I didn't know if it was an overt reference to a shaved scrotum, perhaps.
I
didn't know what the story was behind
I was
that.
hoping that it would be in reference to that, but I always thought that was called a lunch sack.
Lunch sack, meatloaf.
The meatloaf.
Were you in the moment when you farted on fellow actor Jason John Beebe during a film scene, or is that what your character would have wanted?
Well, I was in full character, and that's definitely what my character would have wanted. Luckily, I had one on deck at the time, and it's basically, you know, okay, you want, all right, you're an actor now. He's in SAG. He's a real actor now, you know. So he wants to do some, you know, he wants to throw some lines out there and see if they stick. All right, so do I. The only problem is that I didn't write the line. My colon did. No, basically, shortly before that happened, Jason and I have a speckled history of getting inebriated and acting like schmucks together behind the scenes while we're working on items. He normally says, "Hey, need help?" I say, "Sure." He comes over, and we get schnookered, and not as much help happens. So we were building the Not Renamican from Dick Johnson and Tommygun. The Not Renamican.
I like it.
From Dick Johnson and Tommygun, and he basically had he had an idea that we should drink as much rum as humanly possible, so we did. And by the end of the night, he was very inebriated and being loud, and I was inebriated and being mad that he was loud, and we were going back and forth, and it wound up with us getting into like a stupid drunken argument and everything. And then he's like, "Hey, you know what's going on with Dick and Tommy Gun?" I'm like, "Of course you got the part, buddy. You know what I mean? We fight like idiots because we love each other, you know." And so then he did the part amazingly, but he wanted to go, "Fuck you," when he had a mouthpiece in that wasn't in the lines. So as soon as I heard the ad lib, I just took one step back and and I had to fight to keep the actual fart audio in. They wanted to change it to a brrrp, and I was like, "You touch my real fart,
There's going to be
Your
a
head will burn off.
my ass will kill you." Oh, by the way, right now, you guys we're going to finish up this show, and then as soon as it's done, Thursday Night Terrors at the Amherst Theater. In case you don't know about that, awesome stuff.
Rolling out the plugs. Rolling out the plugs.
John is all about the plugs.
That's okay. Plugs are welcome here.
Hey, well, the thing is, for me, it's not a plug because they don't sponsor me or anything. It's a plug because they show old, awesome horror movies in Buffalo, and it's a place to get together with horror fans and watch them on the big screen. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, please to explain how Spirit Gum is superior or inferior to competitors Big League Chew or Hubba Bubba.
Okay, well, Spirit Gum. Oh, Spirit Gum. Spirit Gum was what I started with before I realized
Back in the day.
Yeah, that if you go online, you can get spleen glue, where surgeons literally glue organs back together with this stuff, and you use that to apply on people's faces and stuff, and then you have to use something to release it. It's pretty crazy stuff, but that's so that you can be underwater and your appliances won't come off and everything else. So Spirit Gum was like my training wheels, how I got started when I did my first werewolf costume with my mom when I was a kid. That's where I really got my start in special effects makeup, to be honest with you, was my mom. Halloween, she would go really into it.
That was your curtain up.
Oh, yeah. The first big costume she did with me where I realized you could do real makeup work at home was a out-of-the-box werewolf kit where she painted my nose and glued hair down and everything, and it looked really, really cool. And then the following year, I wanted to gross people out, and I did a gelatin face melt where you put an eye patch and you melt up bloody gelatin and you pour it over your face, and it all and it makes you look like you're like this crazy burn victim. And I went around scaring adults and stuff, and ever since that moment, I was like, I saw it on RoboCop, and I saw people get blown up, and I thought it was so cool. And then I saw my mom do it for real, and I was sold. And then from there, it was a lot of getting together with Eric Semecki here and there, and pooling our money and our resources, and working with latex and stuff when we were younger, and doing little effects stuff and things. You can even find some of the older effects stuff that we did right on my Facebook page, a degloved finger and
JFR Productions.
Oh,
like
yeah,
JFR
right.
Productions on the Facebooks.
Yeah, like JFR Productions.
I love the logo.
Oh yeah,
it had to be
Chris
red.
Cosgrave. Yeah. That was Chris Cosgrave who threw that puppy together for me. He has
We
been
have
nonstop
4 minutes.
Health. Holy crap!
We have 4 minutes. Let me do a question for Michael, if I may. How is it, Michael? How is it that you specifically didn't want John in Dry Bones, and yet he went on to play one of his best roles in it?
I don't know. 4 minutes? Do we? We might need more time than that. Well, okay. As I've told you, John and I have this mostly love relationship, but there are times when John can't be quiet to save his life, and when I'm not feeling good, I want John to be quiet. It doesn't happen. It never happens. It never will happen.
Especially if I can ball bust Michael, it's not going to happen.
Also, John is known for being a little bit hard and loose with his lines. So I was worried that John wasn't really going to hit all the lines the way that Greg wrote it. Because, Greg did an awesome job with that script. I mean, it's a fantastic script.
It's a great movie all around. I have no complaints.
But I will say, John surprised me. He showed up on set. He knew all his lines, other than the one thing that we love to kid him about, because Greg switched something, and John started screaming, going, "You changed it! You changed it! Now I don't know what I'm doing! You changed it!" And we're like, "Come on, John, it was a word or two." But no, John did an amazing job. I must confess. Even though, of course, it is scary where he's like hugging me to death, and my look of fear is real.
Michael did not know that I was going to slam his face into my bosom and then rub my fingers through his hair. He had no idea that
emotion was real.
That was all real. It was all real. Yeah.
John, which musty magazines did you have more of as a teenager, Playboy or Fangoria, and who had the better centerfolds?
They blur together for me, actually.
That's frightening and disturbing. If you have a passion for your field, sir, you should convey.
I had a stack of Fangos. I had a stack of just about everything my mom didn't know about growing up. That's how guys roll. I have 3 boys now, and my wife is, she's a woman. I'm a man. I'm terrified of what goes on in those rooms.
Because
I can only imagine. Yeah, but hi to my wife Nikki and my 3 boys, Ashton, Roland, and Johnny, and we got our 2 kitty cats and our new dog, Charles Bronson.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. We're gonna have to go out on this question.
Oh.
This is a good one to go out on. Would you agree? Would you agree that Evil Dead 2 was a classic reimagining of Henry David Thoreau's Walden or Life in the Woods?
I would say that Evil Dead 2 is perhaps my favorite film of all time, and to the point where the only thing that I could think of was the captain of the police being Danny Hicks. So I busted his balls until he finally responded to me. He took the time to actually read the script, and within a few hours messaged me back and said, "This is great, I'm in." And then from that point on, Tim Quill was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I said, "Oh my God, the blacksmith." So I have 2 of my favorite horror movie characters of all time in my film, and they basically nailed it, knocked it out of the park. I mean, I flubbed the first line of the script that I wrote.
I gotta start it. I'm sorry. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, my God.
We got 22 seconds.
Oh, my God, 22 seconds left. Anyway, Danny and Tim were amazing. Debbie was outstanding, and I got to work with 3 of my favorite people ever on my first feature film. And the only person I didn't get to work with, unfortunately, was Michael O'Hare, because he was sick at the time and somebody else claimed him. And now, for eternity, he busts my balls.